What's up, people? I'm Shaggy, the Opinionated Hippie, and today I'm going to review and rank Scorpions' studio albums, the German rock band. How did we get here from Frank Zappa? One of Frank Zappa's most inspired lyrics, "Rock You Like a Nincompoop," off the Tinseltown Rebellion from like 84 on. Yeah, rock you like a nincompoop. Also, Michael Schenker was the original guitarist for the Scorpions. He was in a band called UFO, and Ainsley Dunbar, who played drums with Zappa, was in UFO. Big Scorpions fan pretty much since I was a preteen, thanks to this older kid who lived on my block who would play their early albums quite a bit. So I always like to say I knew the Scorpions before Rock You Like a Hurricane changed their world. Just a really straight, kind of like AC/DC, like just a pretty straightforward hard rock band. They know their sound. They stick with it for the most part on all their albums. The quality of their albums pretty much just depends on the quality of the songs. Like, they don't really change their sound other than one instance. If you want to like the Scorpions, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, embrace the power ballad. The more that you embrace the power ballad, the more you will enjoy the Scorpions. Because not only do they drop a lot of power ballads, and not all of them are good, they are not, but many of them are, and in the course of doing so over their decades-long career, they did produce the world's greatest power ballad, which I will point out when we get to that album. But anyways, I'll probably keep it short on a lot of these albums because, like I said, they do not change their sound much. So really just some albums hit better for me than others. So there's really not much to go into there other than just these songs aren't as good. Plus I'd like to maybe do all 19 albums in one video if possible. So anyways, on to number 19. Number 19 is their 14th Eye to Eye. This came out in 1999, and I'm just going to say no, no, no. They try to be a pop band. They try to be something other than what they are. It is a head-scratching, absolute no. Yeah, it sounds nothing like the Scorpions, which I applaud bands who try to do things that are different, but I don't even think this is interesting. There is one fantastic song on here, "Mind Like a Tree," which is just, it's kind of this overproduced mess, like the rest of the album is kind of like this overproduced mess, but it is a really, really good song, "Mind Like a Tree." They also have a song, the only song they ever do in German is on here, and it includes a rap. So like not like they wrap it up like somebody tries to rap. So for the most part, no. But "Mind Like a Tree" is a fantastic song. Otherwise, just no. Number 18 is Savage Amusement. This was their 10th album. It came out after Love at First Sting, which changed the game for them. They did a long tour. It took a while to record this album, and it just feels kind of like forced and lifeless. The production is horrible. This is 1988. The drums kind of ruin it. It makes it almost like, for some people, for me, that drum sound is just horrible. There are 3 good songs on here. "Passion Rules the Game," which again it's kind of a mid-tempo thing. It's not like the hardest rocker, but it's kind of good. "We Let It Rock, You Let It Roll," despite the title, has some good sort of Maiden-esque riffing in it that's kind of good. And then "Love on the Run" has some kind of Motorhead type riffing in it that's kind of good. So the few times that they lean into their more metallic tendencies, their harder tendencies, this album is good. But for the most part, it's kind of just sounds very much of its time in not the best way possible. 18, Savage Amusement. My number 17 and my number 16 are Humanity Hour 1 at 17, Unbreakable at 16. These albums were released back-to-back in the early 2000s. Unbreakable was 2004, Humanity was 2007. And they both, to me, remind me of the same experience. They're kind of just, the songwriting isn't at its peak. The band is a little bit heavier than it was in like earlier, especially in like the late 90s. but a lot of the songs start off with like these really awesome, aggressive like licks or riffs, or you feel like you're gonna get something, and then we drop into like these like mid-tempo, more poppy, more radio-friendly things. Humanity apparently is a concept album of some sort. There's a brief little spoken word part at the beginning, at the end. Can't say I ever delved too much into that. The songs aren't horrible. There's a couple good ballads on each one of these. They both have some interesting moments. As always, in almost all of them, if there's a solo or, the guitar player gets a chance to step up and do something, that's usually pretty interesting. But I don't think either one of these albums, they're not horrible, but they definitely are not as good as the stuff from like the 70s or the 80s. And both of them at times maybe just feel like they're going on too long, or could just use a little bit something to like shake it up. But they're not bad. They're just kind of, maybe when you're done, forgettable a little bit. But yeah, that would be my number 17, Humanity Hour 1, and number 16, Unbreakable. Number 15 is their 13th album, Pure Instinct. This came out in 1996. This doesn't get as much love as I think it deserves. It's generally referred to as the ballad album because I think there's more ballads on here than there are more up-tempo rockers. And it is, without a doubt, a more calmer, mid-tempo to lower-tempo affair. But there's a lot of really good melodies on here. And I think like there's a pop sweetness to this album that maybe puts it in a different category. Like it's not trying to be modern, weird pop like Eye to Eye and Fail. It's just like, just still kind of playing in the hard rock vein, but just mellowing it out a little bit and getting some melodic hooks. I don't know, and I just really like it. And I think the second half of the album is just particularly, maybe not the second half, like the middle third. Stone in My Shoe, Soul Behind the Face, or just kind of have good radio-friendly hooks on it that I just kind of like. Time Will Call Your Name, which kind of comes towards the end. Almost goes into this like cashmere groove for a while that's kind of cool. Wild Child is kind of a strong opener. There's a lot of really good licks and riffs, and most of them end up going down to this more mellower, melodic place. But I don't know. If you embrace it, again, embrace the power ballads with this band, but even embrace the more just straightforward melodic, I mean, they're like melodic hard rock, essentially. I don't know. It's not bad. I think this is a pretty good album, and I definitely think it doesn't deserve the hate I have seen it get on a lot of reviews and a lot of lists. Yes, they're not rocking as hard, but the two previous albums on this list rock much harder than this, but I don't think they have melodies or hooks or things that I remember. Like Stone in My Shoe, Soul Behind the Face, The Groove and Time Will Call Your Name. Like I remember these things. I'm excited to return this album to hear those things. Those two albums I just discussed don't quite have those things that kind of grab me in the same way. So not a bad album, and definitely I think underrated by many. Number 15, Pure Instinct. Number 14 is Face the Heat. This came out in 1993. It's their 12th studio album, and this is a bunch of really solid songs on it. Two pretty great songs. The opening Alienation, which is really hard and getting into it, and it sounds like the band's having a little bit of fun. And then the absolutely fantastic Woman. Woman is just an absolute beast. Kind of a ballady thing with this really creepy vibe. At times it reminds me of the Private Investigations from Dire Straits, like do-do-do-do-do-do-do. A little like She's So Heavy action gets in there. Yeah, and then the whole second half of the album, the first half is pretty almost, it's hard rock and might be a little generic at times. But again, anytime there's a solo, it sounds good and it's not horrible. Open, strong. But then we get that Woman about midway through. Everything after that just sounds really good. Hate to Be Nice is this really good Guns N' Roses, kind of yelling at the listener type, Axl Rose type energy. Ship of Fools about having a nervous breakdown has this weird little breakdown in the middle that sounds like you might be experiencing the nervous breakdown. Yeah, Nightmare Avenue is a good little rocker. It's a really fun, good album that has an absolute, maybe one of their best like top 10 songs right smack dab in the middle of it in Woman, which is just absolutely fantastic. But yeah, a really good, enjoyable album. Maybe a step down overall from something like Love at First Sting. But not bad. Pretty strong. And Woman, Woman is fantastic. So the next three albums are the most recent three albums the Scorpions have released. At number 13 is 2010's Sting of the Tail. At 14, 2015's Return of Forever. And at 12. And at 11, just missing the top 10, is their most recent album from 2022, Rock Believer. This is like a late career renaissance. Like, their formula is exactly what it's always been. Hard rock, power ballads. They're maybe not rocking as hard as they used to, but they still have an incredible guitarist who can drop some solos. The solos are usually always pretty interesting. The songwriting is strong enough where they don't need to like reinvent themselves every time out. And it just sounds like they're having fun. Sting of the Tail, the first one, has the word rock in 4 of the song titles. Like, I think that gives you the vibe that they're going for. They're just embracing the fact that they're a rock and roll. This is their career. They're just going to get out there and rock and make people happy. It does have the worst song of the 3, Lorelei, a song I just don't like, so that's why I put it here. Otherwise, it's got some pretty good stuff. The title track maybe being the best song on here. There's some good stuff on there. Return to Forever, just a little bit better than Sting of the Tail because it doesn't have a bad song on it. We Built This House, titled Dangerously Close to We Built This City, is a really good. The opener on here is kind of a generic, hey, we're going to go out with a bang hard rocker, but then the second song kind of gets into the nitty gritty and it's pretty good. This album has 1, 2, 3 songs with the word rock in it. The best song on here is probably the penultimate song, The Scratch, which just kind of feels like musically it is The Scratch. It's got a really good vibe on it. Just all around some really good songs. And then their most recent album is probably quite a step better than these other two. It just, the energy is good. It feels loose and fun. Also starts off with a generic rocker, Gas in My Tank, Gas in the Tank, which is like, yeah, I got gas in the tank, we're still going. But then the next song, Roots in My Boots, is just fantastic. Has this great groove. Knock 'Em Dead is great. Seventh Son has this more dramatic kind of, not proggy, but maybe leaning in towards that dramatic type vibe. The second half of this album is a bunch of kind of like, just maybe a couple just shorter, more like When I Lay My Bones to Rest and Peacemaker, just these shorter, more just like attacking rock numbers. Yeah, it's an all around, just a remarkably strong album for what, this is their 19th studio album, Rock Believer, just absolutely fantastic. So yeah, really, really good. Man, these 3 are fantastic. Didn't make the top 10, but they are definitely ending their career on high notes, this band. That's pretty awesome. All right, on to number 10. Number 10 is Crazy World, their 11th album, released in 1990. And this top 10, these are all really, really solid albums. I think there's a big jump between the most recent one, number 11, and this one. And really, this one might even jump up higher on this list if it wasn't for the fact that it was produced and made in 1990 and just has that atrocious drum sound that kind of ruins, for me, many a vibe, because I'm like into a riff, that's guitar heavy and there's no drums and then the drums come in. I'm like, ugh. But there's just a lot of really, really good songs on this album. Opener, Tease Me, Please Me is really good. We have Wind of Change on here, one of their epic, epic ballads. Absolutely love the way Klaus, who sings everything in English lyrics with that German accent, sings Gorky Park. The way he sings Gorky Park gets me every time. Also, Wind of Change, man. Like a German band singing this song in like 90 after like literal wind of change is blowing through their country and their city. I don't know. Powerful song. Kicks After 6 is a fun song. Hit Between the Eyes. Like this closing ballad, Send Me an Angel. Yeah. Send Me an Angel. Can you get any more cheesy than that? But nobody does power ballads as good as Scorpions. Neither of these are the greatest power ballad ever. We'll get to that in a couple albums. But yeah, this is just a fantastic album. It only took 2 years to make this after Savage Amusement. So like they dragged their feet, they toured, they got exhausted, they made Savage Amusement. They kind of picked up the pieces and put this together. This is a really good, fun, loose, getting back to like what they should be doing the rest of their career type album. Yeah, this is good. I like this. But yeah, number 10, Crazy World. Number 9 is Virgin Killer, their 4th studio album. Came out in 1976, and this is a really loose sounding album. The first half particularly sounds like a band that had a bunch of songs it wanted to record, it went to the studio, it kind of tore them off. It's like really good high energy. The performances are spectacular, the energy is spectacular, except maybe, especially on the first half of the album, maybe the songs are just a little more generic and less memorable than some of their other stuff. But it's great performances, and it's a good, fun, hard rock side A. Side B, things just get weird. Hellcat is all over the map in a fun way, flirts with Ballroom Blitz for a while, which I'm not a big fan of, but they kind of go their own way and correct that error. Crying Days has some proggy elements that are awesome. Polar Nights is like this amazing, awesome dance jam that's just absolutely spectacular. Yellow Raven closes with a little more like proggy, slowly developing energy. The guitar player after Michael Schenker left, Michael Schenker was only on the first album, is Uli Roth. He was there for a number of albums before they had their sort of golden era Love at First Sting lineup. And Roth is a full-on Hendrix devotee. And side A is more straightforward, just like hard rock Scorpion side style. Side B, Uli's indulging a lot of his like just Hendrix flamboyancies, and it is just such a I mean, both are excellent sides of music, but side B really kind of takes it to a different direction and shows a little more of for a band that kind of stayed pretty straight and narrow, it shows Scorpions kind of stretching out and have a little more fun, getting kind of loose. And Polar Nights is just, it's a riot of a song. But yeah, that's my number 9. And no, I did not show the original cover of this album in the beginning because, yeah, I don't want to get banned from YouTube, let alone demonetized. So anyways, that is my number 9. Number 8 is 1976's In Trance, their 3rd album. This is their 2nd with Roth as a guitar player, but the first were like, we're just going to make short, hard, succinct, no-nonsense, hard rockers, and then flirt with some power ballads. And that's exactly what they do on this album. The first song, High Energy Rocker, in which Klaus even gets a little like Bon Scott impersonation in there in some of the vocals. The second song, the title track, we're already kind of flirting with power ballad territory. So like the template is laid clear from the beginning. It's pretty awesome. Though the end of it, and early on, they kind of flirted with this a lot, even in the Roth era, is having the ending to songs that kind of had a sort of Pink Floyd, dun, dun, comfortably numb type, slowly drawn out riff ending that works pretty well, like something that Pink Floyd would flirt with on The Wall even a little bit. They end a number of their songs with that. This one does. We get some great guitar playing. Top of the Bill is kind of an average song, but Uli is just an absolute beast and destroys that thing. What else do we get? We get Sun in My Hand, which has one of those nice sort of kind of plodding, and I mean that in a good way because it's a hard rocking band, plodding groove that they would kind of refine and perfect in the Zoo, but here they're just kind of mining that territory to see what they could do with it later. But then the end of it abandons the whole plotting thing, and we get some like Allman-esque type jazzy lines almost. And then the whole thing closes out with Night Lights, which is like a jazzy little instrumental, which kind of sounds like Ween's The Captain, that Captain song, but played by like a jazz band or something like that. Somebody not trying to be weird, but trying to be normal, but still trying to stick within the confines of the Captain. It's a really fun, good album. The guitar playing is fantastic. The band sounds like they're having a good time. My number 8, In Trance. Number 7 is their 7th, Animal Magnetism. Came out in 1980. Matthias Jobs, is that his name? J-A-B-S, right? Jobs. Matthias Jobs has been with the band as guitar player for a while. He is fantastic. It's just Scorpions doing what the Scorpions do. Opens up with Make It Real. Make it real, oh fantasy. Just an outright Scorpions classic right there. Hold Me Tight, nice, heavy, chugging, slow. Klaus's vocals are ridiculous. 20th Century Man kind of one of those weird kind of slinky grooves that Robert Plant kind of dabbled in a lot in the 21st century, where it's kind of a mix of different, feel like there's different kind of genres seeping in, but the overall thing is just kind of like, I don't know, fresh sounding groove, just fantastic. Falling in Love and Only in Man are really fun, upbeat rockers, both kind of poppy, leaning into their pop tendencies. And then to close out the album, we get The Zoo, one of their all-time greats. It's just a slow, chugging, kind of heavy, just menacing rocker. And we get Animal Magnetism, which kind of stays in that same vein, gets a little darker. Yeah, and it's, yeah, just really, really, really good ending to a really, really solid album. The last two songs are absolutely fantastic. The Zoo, Animal Magnetism are just a really kind of dark 1-2 punch. If the first half was a little bit stronger, I think this would go up. Make It Real is a great opener, but it gets a little just, it's always good. It's just maybe dips a little in overall quality. Maybe a little bit in like the middle third. But for the most part, yeah, just a really, really fantastic album. My number 7, Animal Magnetism. Number 6 is Lonesome Crow, their first album, the only one that has Michael Schenker on guitar. And this is just pretty much a straightforward Michael Schenker jam session. Probably a little more proggy and psyche than it is hard rockin'. Kind of sounds like a jam band. Sounds like a lot of like sort of the blues rock jam bands that were just around in the early 70s. It just kind of fits in. Maybe a couple years late. This came out in 74. It seems like, no, this came out in 72. So no, it's right on time. Maybe the end of this sort of era of this kind of band coming out. But yeah, it's just a bunch of like really jammy songs. I'm Going Mad, psych rocker that sounds like it's straight out of the late 60s. Yeah, It All Depends just sounds like they went in and recorded a big jam. Leave Me is a fantastic jam and has some great playing, bass playing in it. I will say this, and I wrote this in my notes. I'm not sure who is more fluid, but Schenker is quite fluid on this album. He might even be more fluid than Jeff Beck on some of these tracks. Yeah, it's just loose, it's blues, it's rock, it's dark, it's psych, it's just, it's all over the place, but there's guitar everywhere, and it's really indulgent, and maybe the song writing wasn't up to snuff, but who cares? Because as soon as Schenker starts playing, you're just like, all right, this is good. Indulge, my friend, indulge. Yeah, doesn't really feel like Klaus is taking command at this point yet. It just feels very much like a Michael Schenker showcase, and I'm okay with that. It's a good listen. My number 6, their debut, Lonesome Crow. Number 5 is their second album, Fly to the Rainbow. Their first with Uli Roth and his Hendrix inspiration on guitar. So what we get here is we are not yet into that hard rock territory we would be in for the rest of their career. We're in this very Hendrix, psych, prog, kind of still kind of jammy thing that is absolutely fantastic. I do believe a couple of the songs were holdovers from Schenker, the Michael Schenker, and not Rudolph, who's always in the band their entire career. And yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's another really indulgent kind of guitar proggy showcase, only it's a different guitar player, one with a little more Hendrix kind of psych, pushing the envelope in that way type vibe. Speedy's coming. Oh, awesome opener. Name's great. Great way to open an album. They Need a Million has kind of a classical acoustic intro where we get a lot of Uli Roth sort of classical guitar playing on some of these early albums. And then we go into a really nice sort of Latin flavored groove, like a Man and Woman from Ween type thing, something like Carlos would do deep into a show, that kind of thing. Drifting Sun is just fantastic. Drenched in Hendrixisms, the guitar playing, the progginess of it. It is just an awesome, awesome, loose, fun song. This is my song, kind of harkens back to late 60s, kind of psych pop, but it works. Ruth, Far Away has a slower part that starts off, and then we go into a funkier groove, and Roth drops another just amazing solo in that. The title track, another acoustic finger-picked intro. Then we go into kind of a funky 60s folk rock vibe, or kind of a little all over the map, very hippie-esque. And the end of this, we get a nice sort of Pink Floyd, drawn out type guitar-centric finale. Yeah, it's just a really good, for 74, this is the one I was thinking is maybe 2 years past its limit, and other bands were maybe moving in other directions at this point. But it's nice. The Hendrix influences are nice. And Drifting Sun is just an absolute masterpiece in the center of this album. But yeah, that would be my number 5, their second, Fly to the Rainbow. Number 4 is Love Drive. This came out in 1979. This is their 6th. This is the first one with Matthias Jabs. Yuli has left the band. This is the quote-unquote their classic lineup. And yeah, this is just a straight-up classic album. Opens up with Lovin' You Sunday Morning, which is just such a phenomenal opener. And when they shift into the chorus, the Lovin' You Sunday, I mean, just what a great little shift. And that little melodic ride they go on right after that is just so fantastic. Oh, Another Piece of Meat has a kind of a heartbreaker, Zeppelin heartbreaker type vibe to it. Always Somewhere reminds me of Simple Man by Leonard Skinner. It definitely, you can, like, in the progression, it feels like they're about to, like, almost feels like they have a little bit of the same Simple Man riff in there at one point. Really solid road ballad. Eating Chinese food apparently a lot on the road, this band is. Coast to Coast is a absolutely ridiculous, awesome instrumental. This band should have done more instrumentals. The few times they do it well. Is There Anybody There? It's kind of flirting with reggae. We get a little bit of a reggae flavor. I'm not sure it's needed, but somehow the song manages to work, and it manages to be pretty good. The title track is a really nice sort of galloping Iron Maiden vibe, even though this is pre-Iron Maiden by a year before their first album came out. And then Holiday, we get one of their sort of epic power ballads. And this one is really interesting because you kind of get this middle groove in the middle, right? Where things kind of pick up and you just get this, like, the band's, you know, not really rocking hard, but they're kind of grooving a little bit. It's not a very funky band, but they have these, like, hard rock grooves that they go into. But then we never really get a release in this song. It kind of just kind of goes back soft again, and then the Holiday kind of ends. And it's weird because, I don't know, you feel like the need for a release, but when it doesn't come, it just works. The song works. They let it, like, develop long enough that it just kind of, I don't know. It's an interesting song. It is one of their best power ballads, not their best power ballad. Had it been better, had Holiday been a little bit of a better power ballad, it might have made number 3. But anyways, for now, Love Drive, number 4. Number 3 is their 5th album, Taken by Force. This is Yuli's 3rd album. And I think this is probably their most just indulgent, like, not necessarily like trying to be a different band, but still being like this hard rock band, but not being afraid to flirt with, like, dance grooves or funk grooves to the limit of their abilities. And just, it's a really loose, playful, kind of eccentric album. Opens up with Steam Rock Fever, which is just a really strange opener. There's, like, weird background chants going on and all kinds of crazy energy, but it absolutely works. The only bad choice they make on the album is the second song, We'll Burn the Sky. Kind of feels like a side closer, and doesn't feel like it's taking advantage of the weird momentum that Steam Rock Fever had. Like, Steam Rock Fever is weird enough that they needed just a straightforward rocker to follow up, to be like, okay, you know, we're comfortable now. Instead, they kind of get a little more proggy and have different ideas. It's a good song. It's got some different parts to it. It ends with an awesome ending solo. It's just the one song that's in the wrong place. I think had this song been somewhere else, this album might get to number 2. The Riot of Your Time is a really nice sort of like pinball wizard type acoustic vibe. Again, Yuli leaning in, or even Schenker at this point doing some acoustic guitar stuff that works. The Sales of Charon, Charon, super funky groove. You get this weird space intro. Then we go into, like, some hard rock, dance, weird funk, a la like Deep Purple, Come Taste Your Band, Come Taste the Band. It's just like swagger stuff. Then we get Your Light, which also has kind of a dance groove to it. Shouldn't work, but it absolutely does. This band is just like enjoying the heck out of themselves at this point. Just a really, really, really good album. A lot of fun. We get He's a Woman, She's a Man, which has some hard rock energy that works. And then the album closes out with Born to Touch Your Feelings, which is some typical melodramatic power ballad stuff, but then the bass comes in with these like bass drops, and it's just like, oh yeah, okay, I can get into this. This is really good. There's a bonus track on this that I want to... A lot of these have bonus tracks that I haven't talked about, but this one has a bonus track called Suspender Love, which has this really nice sort of Queen of the Stone Age type sort of groove swagger to it. So I thought I would recommend that if you see that. But yeah, it's a really, really good album. And I honestly think that if the sequencing was a little bit different, and maybe the hard, heavy rock of He's a Woman, She's a Man was bumped up to follow Steam Rock Fever, might be a little more of a consistent album, or might have a better flow to it and rank higher. But it's a fantastic, fantastic band, kind of exploring different avenues, but still sounding like Scorpions type album. My number 3, Taken by Force. Number 2 is Love at First Sting. Their 9th, came out in 1984, changed the world for the Scorpions. Kids in my class, I teach kindergarten, they all know Rock You Like a Hurricane on day 1, every year, somehow. That's how ubiquitous this song is. That is what this album did for this band. You take Rock You Like a Hurricane off of this album, this is still at number 2. In fact, this might be at number 1 because... knowing that Rock You Like a Hurricane is the second song on here, I'm like, I've heard that song so many times, I don't need to hear it again. Every time I do listen to this album and Rock You Like a Hurricane drops, I'm like, okay, that's a good song. I will say this, though. Rock You Like a Hurricane is not the best song on this album. I don't think it's the second best song on this album. I don't think it's the third best song. I don't think it's the fourth best song. I don't think it's the fifth best song. It's probably like the 7th best song on this album. And Rock You Like a Hurricane is a great song. That's how good this album is. Bad Boys Running Wild, just an awesome hard rocker. This is just hard rock with some melodic hooks. Rock You Like a Hurricane follows. I'm Leaving You, sounds like a BOC song. It's one of those, it just has these like repeated like couplets, and then we go to like a new musical, shift directions a little bit. Reminds me of kind of like Teen Archer or something from BOC. Doesn't have dramatic middle part flourish, but I love the vibe of I'm Leaving You. And it's got one of my favorite lines of all time. Keep me in your mind until I come back to love you. Like, it's obviously dedicated to a groupie, it seems like. It's like, hey, just remember me till I come back. Yeah, when I come back in Des Moines, I'm going to like, oh, no, don't come visit me in like, no, don't come visit me. I'll be in Peoria, but you don't need to visit me. I'll come visit you. Yeah, I got family there. I'll be busy. But keep me in your mind until I come back to love you. Fantastic. Coming Home, kind of a soft loud, only the soft really doesn't feel like a song development as much as it's like this cool little prelude, and then we get one of their best hard rockers. And then The Same Thrill is another just pedal to the metal as far as Scorpions go, type almost channeling Motorhead type rocker. That's fantastic. Side A of this album is perfect. Side B, Big City Nights, another absolutely fantastic melodic rocker. We get 2 songs which kind of bring this off from number 1 down to 2. Soon as the Good Times Roll and Crossfire, both interesting, but kind of a drop below the awesomeness that is everything else on this album. And then we close out with Still Loving You. Still Loving You. Just heartbreaking. The lyrics seem heartfelt. As cheesy of a power ballad as it is, everything about this song is perfect. It is the perfect power ballad. I argue that Still Loving You by the Scorpions is by far the best power ballad ever to be written or performed or sung. Go listen to it, and if you're not moved, I just feel bad for you because it's an incredible song. Embrace the power ballad. I'd like to know what you think is a better one, if you think there is a better one, but man, that is a good song. good enough to make sure this doesn't go out of number 2. Didn't quite make number 1, but my number 2, Love at First Sting. And my number 1 Scorpions album is 1982's Blackout, their 9th, right, if I'm not mistaken, their 8th. And this is just, it's just nothing but great song after great song. Maybe a little more streamlined and less of a big production, is like the 84 Love at First Sting has one of their all-time greatest songs, one of the best hard rock songs ever, and No One Like You. It opens up with a straight-up hard rocker, Blackout, which is just like, band comes out of the gates, just like, we're going to rock. That's what we're going to do on this album. No nonsense. We're going to drop some hooks in there, but we're, for the most part, just going to rock for like, what, 40 minutes. Can't Live Without You is a really nice upbeat riff, kind of a heavy rocker. You get the absolutely, absolutely perfect No One Like You. You Give Me All I Need's a little bit more restrained, held back, but the guitar playing on this is just jobs, however you say his name, is just like, perfect. Dynamite has a nice, going into that Motorhead territory. The name Dynamite works. Arizona, hooky, could have been a hit. This is kind of showing us maybe some of the tendencies that they would have more on Love at First Sting, but this is just a really, really good hooky song. And then we get China White, which is just this heavy, plodding, in that territory that the Zoo took us to, and we get a guitar solo that is just all over chaos, crazy sounds. Like, it's just, yeah, it's just, this is a perfect album. Doesn't have any drops. Like, I think there's maybe a 2-song drop. The side B at Love at First Sting that brings that slightly below this. This one is just, from the beginning, it just hits hard. It's coming at you. It's got a little bit of everything. Matthias on guitar sounds absolutely fantastic. The band sounds fantastic. Yeah, there's nothing to complain about on this album. And it's just a roller coaster ride from start to finish. And it is a blast. So yeah, that's it. That's my number 1, Blackout. That's what they look like in written form, so you don't have to try to remember anything. And that's all I got, man. Yeah, Scorpions, really, really reliable, good hard rock band. Late 70s up to the mid 80s, absolutely fantastic. Reliable, fantastic band. Highly recommend you check them out if you don't. Yeah, Rock You Like a Nincompoop, one of the worst lyrics Frank ever wrote. Didn't really write a lyric, change a word, but you get my point. All right, let me know what you think of the Scorpions. Let me know what your rankings would be. Let me know if you check them out and like them, all that kind of stuff. Subscribe, like, share, and go listen to Blackout, people, and then just move on up the list, because until we get to 10, they're all the way up to 10. Those are strong, strong albums to these ears. Peace. Talk to you later.